The courtyard of Lakshmi's small house used to be filled with the sound of her husband, Ramu's hearty laughter. He was a good man, a simple farmer with a smile that could brighten the gloomiest monsoon day. Now, a profound silence has settled over the home, a quiet so deep it feels heavier than any stone. It has been 6 months since Ramu left this world, and for Lakshmi, every day is a battle against the emptiness he left behind. She is a widow now, a word that carries so much weight in her small village. The colorful bangles on her wrists are gone, and her bright saris have been replaced with pale, muted colors, as if the joy has been drained from her life, along with the vibrancy of her clothes. She feels vulnerable, like a lone boat tossed in a vast, uncaring sea, with no anchor to hold her steady. In the beginning, the villagers were kind. They brought food, sat with her, and shared her grief. But grief has a season, and soon, their sympathy began to change into something else. Lakshmi felt the shift subtly at first, like the change in the evening air just before a storm. The gentle words of comfort were slowly replaced by words of expectation, words that pricked at her conscience. She was still young, and Ramu had left her a small plot of land and a modest house. This, she soon realized, made her not just an object of pity, but also an object of interest. The world, which had seemed to stop when Ramu died, was now spinning again, but its axis had shifted, and she was struggling to find her footing on this new, uncertain ground. Life in a village is a tapestry woven with threads of community and connection. Everyone knows everyone else's business, and support is often just a shout away. But this closeness has a darker side, a side Lakshmi was now beginning to see with painful clarity. Her vulnerability was not seen as a reason for protection, but as an opportunity for others to exert their influence. The lines between genuine concern and selfish motives began to blur, leaving her confused and wary. She missed Ramu's simple wisdom. He always knew who to trust. Now she had to learn to navigate these treacherous waters alone, deciphering the true meaning behind every smile and every concerned inquiry that came her way. Her days are now spent in quiet solitude, tending to her small garden and managing the household chores that once felt light and easy with Ramu by her side. Every corner of the house holds a memory, every object a story. The old wooden chair in the corner was where he sat to read the newspaper. The brass lamp in the prayer room was the one he polished so carefully every festival. These memories are her only comfort, but they are also a constant, painful reminder of her loss. She is adrift in a world that feels both familiar and frighteningly new, a world where the kindness of her neighbors has started to feel like a carefully laid trap, and she doesn't know how to escape it. The emotional blackmail began softly, disguised as advice from well-meaning elders. Her neighbor, Shankar, a man Ramu had always considered a friend, was the first. He would often stop by her house, his face a mask of deep concern. "Lakshmi, you are like a daughter to me," he would say, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "That piece of land near the river. It is too much for a woman alone to manage. My son can help you cultivate it. It is our duty to look after you, now that Ramu is no longer here." His words sounded kind, but they carried a hidden demand. He was not offering help. He was suggesting she hand over control of her most valuable asset, using her loneliness and his supposed fatherly concern as a lever to get what he wanted. Then came the guilt-tripping, a more potent and painful weapon. The village elders would remind her of all the help Ramu had given others. "Your husband had a heart of gold, Lakshmi," one woman told her during a temple gathering. "He lent my husband money when we were in trouble, without asking for anything in return. Now it is your turn to show the same generosity. My daughter is getting married, and a small loan from you would be a blessing." The implication was clear. If she refused, she would be dishonoring her husband's memory. They were using her love for Ramu against her, turning her grief into a currency they could use for their own benefit. Each request felt like a small tear in the fabric of her peace. Sometimes the manipulation took the form of self-pity. Another villager, whose crops had failed, would sit at her doorstep and weep. "Oh, Lakshmi, you are fortunate. At least Ramu left you a house and some land. Look at me, I have nothing. My children will starve." He was making her feel guilty for her own small security, as if her modest inheritance was an injustice to those less fortunate. It was a clever trick to make her feel obligated to part with her resources, not out of charity, but out of a manufactured sense of guilt. These encounters left her feeling drained and confused, questioning her own right to what little she had left in the world. The most frightening form of manipulation came as veiled threats, wrapped in the language of protection. "This village is not always safe for a woman living alone," someone would casually remark. "It is better if you have a man's support. Perhaps you should let my brother manage your affairs. He can protect you from any trouble." The words promised safety but hinted at danger, suggesting that harm might come to her if she did not comply. It was a cruel and subtle form of intimidation, designed to prey on her deepest fears. The very community that was supposed to be her shield was now becoming the source of her anxiety, and the path ahead seemed to be filled with shadows. The constant emotional pressure has taken a heavy toll on Lakshmi. Her heart, already burdened with grief, now carries the additional weight of anxiety and mistrust. The village, which was once her sanctuary, now feels like a cage. Every knock on the door makes her jump, not with anticipation of a friendly visit, but with dread of a new demand. The smiles of her neighbors no longer bring comfort. Instead, she finds herself searching their eyes for hidden motives. This constant suspicion is exhausting, and it has built a wall around her heart, isolating her from the very people she once called her own. She feels utterly alone, even when surrounded by familiar faces. This isolation has deepened her sorrow, making her feel like an outcast in her own home. She avoids going to the village well or the market, fearing the inevitable encounters with people who want something from her. The conversations are always the same, a dance of polite greetings followed by a carefully worded request that she finds difficult to refuse. Saying no is not simple. It is seen as being selfish, ungrateful, or disrespectful to her late husband's memory. So she often gives in, parting with a little money here, a bag of rice there, just to buy a moment of peace. But the peace is fleeting, and the feeling of being used lingers long after. Her nights are often sleepless, filled with worries about the future. What will happen when her small savings run out? How will she manage the land by herself if everyone is trying to take it from her? These thoughts circle in her mind, stealing her rest and leaving her tired and anxious. The joy she once found in simple things, the blooming of a flower, the taste of a ripe mango, the sound of children playing, has faded. Her world has shrunk to the four walls of her house, and her spirit feels imprisoned by the invisible chains of social obligation and emotional blackmail. The burden of being a widow is not just about losing a partner, it is about losing her own agency and peace of mind. The constant need to be on guard has changed her. The open, trusting woman that Ramu loved is slowly disappearing, replaced by someone who is fearful and withdrawn. She misses the simple, honest interactions of the past. She longs for a conversation that does not end with a request, a gesture of kindness that is not a prelude to a demand. The emotional cost of this manipulation is immense. It robs her of her dignity, her confidence, and her ability to heal. She is a victim not of a single act of cruelty, but of 1,000 tiny cuts that are slowly bleeding her spirit dry, leaving her to wonder if she will ever feel safe and happy again. It is a great human failing to prey on the vulnerable. Emotional blackmail is a poison that corrodes the soul of a community. It is unfair and deeply harmful to use someone's grief, fear, or sense of duty to manipulate them. A widow like Lakshmi, who is already dealing with the immense pain of loss, should be offered a shield of protection, not a web of deceit. True support is not about taking, it is about giving. It is about offering a helping hand without expecting anything in return. It is about listening with empathy, offering a word of genuine comfort, and respecting a person's right to make their own choices, even if they are in a difficult situation. What Lakshmi needs is not people who want to manage her life for her, but people who empower her to manage it herself. Instead of trying to take control of her land, a true neighbor would teach her how to get the best price for her crops at the market. Instead of asking for a loan by reminding her of her husband's generosity, a real friend would ask if she has enough for her own needs. Kindness is simple. It does not come with conditions or hidden agendas. It is a gentle rain that nurtures, not a flood that overwhelms. A community that understands this is a strong community, one where every member, regardless of their circumstances, feels safe and valued. Change is always possible, even in the most traditional of villages. It starts with one person choosing to act with integrity and compassion. It can start with a young woman in the village who sees Lakshmi's pain and decides to offer her genuine friendship. It can start with a village elder who speaks up against the subtle exploitation and reminds everyone of their true duty to protect the vulnerable. Education and awareness can help people understand that a widow is not a burden or an opportunity, but a person deserving of respect and dignity. Human goodness, like a persistent vine, can grow even in the hardest of soils if it is given a chance. There is a flicker of hope for Lakshmi and for all the women who find themselves in her position. It lies in the inherent goodness that exists in people's hearts, a goodness that sometimes gets buried under selfishness and greed. Perhaps one day, a neighbor will knock on Lakshmi's door, not to ask for something, but simply to share a meal. Perhaps a child will bring her a flower from the temple, with no other motive than to see her smile. It is in these small, selfless acts that a community can heal itself and rediscover its humanity. For Lakshmi, such a day would be like the first ray of sunshine after a long, dark night, promising that her courtyard might once again be filled with warmth and peace.